In a small town in 19th century England, there lived a girl named Jessica. She was naturally beautiful, as charming as a flower blooming in spring. However, her family was shrouded in gloom. Her father had failed in business and owed a huge debt to a local merchant. Now the deadline had passed, but he was completely unable to repay it. The laws at that time were very strict. If a debtor failed to repay the debt on time, they would be sent to prison. The unscrupulous merchant, who had long lusted after the young and beautiful Jessica, came up with a seemingly fair lottery method to solve the debt problem. He proposed that if Jessica could draw a black pebble from his pocket, she would have to marry him. If she drew a white pebble, the debt would be written off. Jessica saw through the merchant's scheme at a glance. She noticed that the two pebbles the sly fellow put into his pocket were both black. This was undoubtedly a dead end dot no matter which pebble she drew. She couldn't escape the fate of marrying this detestable merchant. And Jessica only felt deep disgust for this merchant. She really couldn't imagine spending the rest of her life with such a person. However, if she directly exposed the merchant's tricks, the debt problem would become even more difficult to handle, and her father would surely be sent to prison. This was something Jessica was extremely reluctant to see. Jessica stood by the river, looking at the gurgling river water, extremely anxious. Suddenly, she had a brilliant idea. She calmly walked up to the merchant, reached into his pocket, and took out a pebble. Then, with a gentle flick of her wrist, the pebble fell into the river like a shooting star. The merchant was completely stunned and never expected Jessica to do such a thing. Jessica, on the other hand, smiled slightly and said in a relaxed tone, "Dear sir, I just wanted to play an interesting game at this moment." Everyone's eyes were fixed on the merchant's pocket, since there was only one black pebble left in it. According to the rules, it could naturally be inferred that the pebble Jessica threw away was white. The merchant had no way to voice his grievances. He thought his plan was foolproof, but unexpectedly, it was skillfully diffused by Jessica. He could only swallow his anger and finally had to admit defeat. Jessica, relying on her wisdom and courage, successfully solved this seemingly unsolvable problem. She took her father's arm with a victorious smile on her face and happily went home. In this difficult situation, Jessica was not trapped by the problem and just kept thinking about what to do. Instead, she actively shifted her thinking to the mode of how to do it well. She skillfully changed the problem from which pebble to pick to which pebble to leave. It was this shift in thinking that not only foiled the cunning merchant's plan, but also created an excellent opportunity for Jessica to turn defeat into victory and finally win this tough battle.